Start from there.
Because what has happened is whenever I'm trying to have my African conversation with people, I've had to start looking at it while divorcing from the Christian from the spiritual aspect, because I myself still have a lot of confusion and have to discover the truth there before I speak about it. However, we cannot speak about any nation, any continent without the spirituality, because the spirituality is the foundation of everything. And what I'm noticing is that our spirituality in its own respect is where our biggest problem starts. We have lost African spirituality. Africans do not even understand what is their spirituality. And when you look at how it is that Christianity has become a very central player in the spiritual space of Africa, it has actually not brought Africans together, but it has divided Africans. Because when the Christian comes into the equation, he does not want to speak to the African traditionalist, to the African spiritualist, to the African who doesn't believe in Christianity. Automatically, and then with the Muslims who also came onto the continent, and they divided the continent. So the spiritual aspect is becoming tricky for me, especially when the book, the manual of a particular spirituality, be it the Quran or the Bible, come into the equation. They begin to cause problems. One, because people don't understand them. Two, there's a chance that they've been tampered with. And three, they have got concepts and doctrines that sometimes go against Africanism in its own respect. But I believe that that's where we need to start. African spirituality must be founded and grounded, because spirit is the way that humanity achieves its objectives of the designer. When the designer created man, man was created for a purpose, to achieve a certain purpose. That purpose can only be known by the designer, and the designer can only speak to man through the Spirit. And that is why I do understand this conversation of the Holy Spirit, the Bible, but my spirit, and I'm a Holy Spirit-filled Christian who has got all these questions that are now conflicting with what it is that I heard in the Christian doctrine. And the question is, what spirit inside me is beginning to question these doctrines? So we've got to find ourselves spiritually as Africans. And our spirituality can only be true if it brings us together, if it helps us maintain nature, if it helps us to prosper together. As long as we're prospering as individuals, as long as we're prospering by destroying another person, I believe that we are not in the right spirituality. So we have to ground that. Once we ground our spirituality, it will then guide our governance system. People need to be led. The leaders of a people need to be led by the right spirit that is aligned with the designer for them to meet their purpose. I believe that all the leaders that we have on the African continent right now are not tuned with any ideology or purpose of a designer. That is why they're looking for foreign investment. They're looking for industry that is destructive to the environment, industry that exploits people's labor. It exploits people and destroys people with the products that it brings up. And I keep saying to Africans, the reason why you're central, the reason why you're the most important people is life came out of Africa, and it came out of the womb of a black woman. It came out of a black, God put seed, or the Creator put seed in blackness to give life to everything else. When we look at what it is that the Chinese and the Europeans are creating, it's death. Their technology is death. Their knowledge is death.
Food.
The reason why Europeans came from Europe to Africa is they were running from the death they had created there through industry, through pollution, through destroying the soil, destroying the air, and war. They finished all their foods, they finished all their animals, and this I will always insist. No European can come to Africa and say they are bringing anything to Europe, to Africa. They finished their animals, including the bears and the lions, that they had to run away because there was nothing to eat. That is a death culture that only Africa can remedy.
And they came here and they call it industrialization.
And they came to Africa and they said we were behind. And they said they brought us civilization. And by saying they're bringing us civilization, is they brought us this culture in which you have to defecate in the water that you drink. Yet the basics of African knowledge says you do not defecate where you eat.
In the well.
Worse still, you cannot defecate in the well. So this toxic culture can only be remedied by African Ubuntu, by African Hunu, that starts with the basics. Do not crap where you eat. do not crap in the water. So that means mining licenses that require a water license, where we take fresh water, give the rights to that fresh water to a mine
Who pollutes it
that is
with
going
cyanide?
to put it with cyanide,
Yes.
put sulfuric
Get
acid.
some few grains of gold.
And this is where I also want to speak to Africans. Last time a gentleman came to me and says, I've got a contract from one of the biggest mining companies, Glencore. And this contract, I've got a truck, I need trucks that can take sulfuric acid from South Africa to Congo, to Fungutengamera mine. Once we get the chemicals there, then we must bring back copper to be taken out of the Durban port. Immediately I told him, I'm not interested. How can I be the kind of African who wants to build Africa, but I am facilitating a deal and making money of taking sulfuric acid that is going to be put
Into the rivers.
into Congolese soil, into the Congolese water table, and into Congolese rivers, that is going to affect the health of the Congolese people in the name of making money.
You're going to make a few millions.
And I'm going to make the few millions for what? To buy a car, a house, nice clothes, and eat in white restaurants, and support white companies on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange that won't even allow South Africans to participate in their own economy, that have monopolized all the real estate, that have monopolized everything, so that the South African cannot be a participant in his own economy, because there's a monopoly system that destroys blackness and builds this destructive character, person, and criminal against
Creature. You called
humanity.
it creature.
No, that's a wonderful word.
Criminal against humanity that caused apartheid and impoverished the people of South Africa to take the money out.